Ed Gein. If you know who Ed Gein is, that is the dude that the Chainsaw Massacre is based off of. So we gonna learn some shit today. Let's get into it.
The twisted killer was a quiet loner named Ed Gein, hidden inside.
Ed Gein. Yo, do y'all know anything about Ed Gein? Or have you heard anything, or at least stories or whatever? All I know is the nigga is based off the Chainsaw Massacre, and the nigga made a nipple belt. He made a nipple belt, which is crazy.
The 51-year-old's rural
and other furniture also. So yeah, there's that. That's what I know.
Farmhouse was a ghoulish treasure trove of human remains.
There was a lampshade made of human skin. They found the remains of 12 human heads, gloves made out of the skin from a corpse's fingers.
You think of this happening, you know.
Look, let me say something real quick. It's bad that he was killing people, but this nigga was mad creative while doing it. That's all I gotta say. I'm not trying to give the nigga props, but like props. That nigga's creative as fuck for that.
No, now it'd still be shocking. But back then, in a small, tiny rural community, it was breathtaking.
America had woken up inside the nightmare of Ed Gein, one of the world's most evil killers.
Evil!
The gruesome crimes of Ed Gein horrified 50s America. When his rural home was searched on the 16th of November, 1957.
You know what's crazy? I didn't know it was 1950s, dude. That's not actually that long ago if you think about it. It's not too crazy.
The police uncovered a gothic house of horrors. As well as the remains of 2 missing local women, they found an array of human bones, skulls, and skin that had been fashioned into furniture and clothing. The town of Plainfield was in complete shock. One of the residents who remembers the effect Gein had on Plainfield is Max.
This is what I want to know, and I'm sure they're going to answer it. How the fuck do they even know to go into this nigga's house? One. That's what I want to know. So there had to be something that led these motherfuckers to this nigga. But we gonna find out. Fuck it.
Harrington.
I think shock would be the biggest thing that we could use to describe the atmosphere in the community. We were still pretty much a clannish community at that time, and a lot of the families that were...
Did this nigga just say clannish community? Oh, no. We gotta go back real quick. Tell me I'm not tripping. Tell me I'm not tripping. This nigga just said clannish community.
Is Max Harrington.
I think shock would be the biggest thing that we could use to describe the atmosphere in the community. We were still pretty much a clannish community at that time, and a lot of the families that were here had always been here. It took your breath away, it was shocking.
Maybe he may clan a different type of way.
People don't do things like that in a small town on a normal day. That's just not part of what we grew up with.
The story of this twisted killer begins over a century ago. Ed Gein was born in La Crosse County, Wisconsin on the 27th of August, 1906. By the time he was 8 years old, his parents moved Ed and his older brother Henry to Plainfield.
Well, the Gein family moved to Plainfield from La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yo, at the beginning of the summer, I legit went right past La Crosse. I was visiting Wisconsin. Whitest state, hands down, by the way. Crazy.
Plainfield was a very remote, isolated, featureless little village. A state guidebook at the time described it as totally nondescript. The population was very small. Never more in its history, I think, than 700 or 800 people. Probably the entire population of the village could have fit into a New York City apartment building.
The Gein's 150-acre farm was located.
He's tripping if he thinks that 800 motherfuckers going to fit into an... Oh, actually, he might be right, low-key. If he's talking about the whole building, yeah, he's probably right.
His mother, Augusta, is a very domineering character indeed. She is a devout Christian and she has some very extreme ideas about sin and about morality. And she drums into her sons that they're not to socialise with anybody outside of the family because all of the people around them in the local town are sinners, they're evil,
That's
all
pretty
the women
small,
are whores.
no joke.
And so she creates this very insular
2005,
family
honey?
environment where they're quite
Holy.
isolated from the rest of the community, and that has a really significant impact.
Look, this is something I want to say too. I live in a small town, but it's not even close to that. It's about 40,000. I would say it's still a small town though, but it's way bigger than yours. But listen, you know what's crazy? The fact that you know everybody in a town of 2,500. I'd be scared to date motherfuckers, dude. You fuck around and date your cousin, dude. Yes, we're learning about Ed Gein. Or you know what I mean? Or everyone you know, you're somehow like in a town of 2,000, you're almost guaranteed to be related to like 6 or 5 families. I don't know. You know what I mean? You said that's the scare. That's the fun part. There ain't nothing like family, motherfucker.
On them.
Gein seemed to have been very friendless
Hell yeah.
whenever he would make some kind of friend. On those rare occasions, when he would try to make a school friend and bring home a school friend, the mother would immediately find some reason to disapprove of the other child and forbid Ed from ever bringing him home. So he grew up again
Keeping it in
a
the
state
family.
of complete social isolation.
We have the
And
same
Gein's
birthday.
relationship with his father was also far from
yeah.
perfect.
Well, the father, George, was an alcoholic. He appeared to have been somewhat free.
Now, I don't know if I'm tripping, but I'm pretty sure I heard a lot of the times that people, when they become like serial killers and shit, majority of the time it has to do with like their parents becoming an alcoholic. Maybe. Am I tripping? I don't know.
In his
Pretty sure I heard that
use
somewhere.
of physical punishment, but mostly the picture that emerges of George is
Second
of
cousins
kind of
don't
a
count.
hapless
That's
individual who was, as all 3 male members of the family were, under the thumb of
It
his
ain't your
wife.
first cousin, though.
And again, who was regarded
You're good,
as
dog.
much as anything else as a sort of obstacle or impediment to the household.
As Ed entered adolescence, his life became even more insular.
Don't hear me out, dog. What the fuck is that supposed to mean, huh? Oh my god, here we go. Okay. All right.
He dropped out of school when he was
Okay.
around about 12 or 13 to work on the family's farm. And he was
Damn!
considered to be a bit of an oddball. He was quite a loner and he enjoyed quite solitary pursuits. So he really quite liked reading and was quite a prolific reader. So he was somebody who didn't really fit in, but worked incredibly.
This is what I'm saying. Like, okay, first of all, the nigga dropped out when he was 13. He didn't have friends anyways, and he was in a remote town where nobody was, dog. So look, I'm just gonna guess because I don't know shit about Ed Gein, but I guarantee, as a kid, look, yeah, he was reading. He found out some shit. He was probably into some sex novel shit, guaranteed, right? And then it was probably like some horror type shit. Who knows? Then he got into killing animals, and then he got into killing people because he's like, I want to be alone, solitude. Well, dude, this is the thing. Dude, this is a crazy fact if you guys didn't know this. The Chainsaw Massacre never happened. It's literally a made-up story. I'm pretty sure it is. I thought my whole life it was real. It's not true. Or if it is, it's based off of something. But not like, I don't know. Yeah, it's based off of Ed Gein. That's what it is. Yes, that's what I thought too. Yeah, loosely based. But dude, I thought for real. I was like, this nigga's out here with a chainsaw just murdering motherfuckers. Guess that's not the case.
It'd be hard to keep the family farm going.
On April 1st, 1940, Ed's father, George, died of heart failure, leaving 33-year-old Ed, his brother Henry, and Augusta.
Wait a second, this nigga just turned 33 from 13? This nigga is a time traveler.
Keep the family farm going.
On April 1st, 1940, Ed's father, George, died of heart failure, leaving 33-year-old Ed, his brother Henry, and Augusta alone on the family farm.
Ed's older brother Henry
shit.
seemed to have freed himself a little more emotionally and psychologically from Augusta's dominance. and even apparently on a couple of occasions
Augusta's his
expressed
mother.
some criticism of their mother and the hold she was exerting over both of them. So Ed, who at least on a conscious level worshipped his mother and saw her as a kind of goddess who could...
Nigga, what? He worshipped his mother and saw her as a goddess. And y'all said, keep it in the family. Boy, was y'all right.
do no wrong, appears to have been both a little shocked, that Henry would find any cause to criticize Augusta, and possibly built up some kind of animosity toward Henry.
In 1944, death would hit the Gein family once again, but this time in more suspicious circumstances, after a brush fire on their farmland got out of control.
Ed and Henry were out there trying to put out the fire, and they got separated, and Ed could not locate Henry, and he went and got help. But then after getting this help, he led the other people directly to where Henry's body lay, and there were some mysterious bruises on Henry's head. Anyway, the official verdict of the medical examiner was that Henry had died of a heart attack while...
Nigga, how? This nigga got hit on the head and died from a heart attack. Low key, this man killed his brother. He's like, Mom doesn't want you. Mom likes me more. I'll kill anyone for Mom. So this nigga done killed his brother on some Cain Abel shit, dog. There's no way.
Fighting this fire, and had injured his head when he fell and hit a rock. But afterwards, when Gein's crimes were uncovered, there was a lot of talk that perhaps Henry had been a victim of Ed's, that Ed, in fact, had killed Henry partly because of Henry's criticism of Augusta.
The impact upon their mother, Augusta, was phenomenal. She really broke down about Henry's death, and she had a stroke.
But of course, by then, the psychic bond between Augusta and Ed was so incredibly intense already. Evidence seems to suggest that with the other two men out of the way, Ed reveled in having his mommy alone to himself.
Ow! Nigga, I was just playing. I was just joking around, dude. Oh my God, dude. This is crazy. This is getting crazy, dude. Nah, I think it's a little bit more than that, dog. I was going to say grandma's cookies, but I was going to say mommy's cookies.
Gein's mother never really recovered from her stroke, and their time alone only lasted for 19 months.
Ed nursed her very, very diligently, even apparently would get into bed with her on occasion and stroke her and comfort her. And then she seemed to recover, but then she suffered another, this time fatal stroke.
Augusta Gein died on December the 29th, 1945. 39-year-old Ed was completely devastated.
Because his mother was so domineering, I think she really did stunt his development, and he almost got stuck at a kind of teenage adolescent phase in his life. So looking at how he behaved at the funeral, he was in his 30s at this time, and he was reported to be wailing like a small child. So he hasn't got that kind of emotional control that's associated with 30.
Dude, he lost the love of his life. The love of his life, dude.
Something meant.
The death of his mother left him completely isolated, living in this increasingly ramshackle, dilapidated farmhouse that he ceased to take care of whatsoever. Augusta was his only real human
This nigga
contact.
just lost it.
So it was...
Dude done fell off, dude. When his mom died, dude, everything went bad, dude. You fell off.
At that point, that Gein embarked on these various outrages that would ultimately make him this notorious figure in American crime.
Alone and isolated from the rest of society, Gein spiraled out of control. Over the next 12 years, he became obsessed with recreating the world he'd shared with his mother. It would lead him to a series of dark and disturbing crimes that would eventually culminate in murder.
In murder. Okay, nigga, I think they're lying. They're saying recreate a world like where his mother's in. So look, I guarantee. Do you think he was just kidnapping women and then he's like, "Be my mommy"? You know what I mean? I don't know.
It was a world that 51-year-old Gein had managed to...
Damn, dude, this man gets older by the year, dude. And I mean, like, at a long way. Like, this nigga was just 13, then he hit 33. His mom, after that, he was 39 when she died, and now this nigga just turned 51. This nigga is aging like Benjamin Button, no joke.
Keep hidden away until the winter of 1957.
Swear to God.
November 16th, 1957 was the first day of deer hunting season that year. And it was a day when basically the entire male population of the town would have been out in the woods hunting deer, as Ed knew.
The entire population
Ed drove into town to the Warden hardware store. The Warden hardware store was owned by a woman named Bernice Warden.
I knew Mrs. Warden quite well. She and her family ran the hardware store here for many years. Almost everybody in the community knew Mrs. Warden.
Ed had kind of been hanging around the store for a couple of weeks previously.
Yeah, this nigga was plotting. This is his first victim right here. He's like, low-key, this bitch said something crazy to my mom. This bitch gotta die.
He had developed something of an obsession with Bernice Warden.
He would talk to her, he would ask her out, and it was quite clear that she really wasn't that interested in him.
Oh, nah, this man was down bad, dude. Oh my God, dude. He was down bad, dude. She said nah, and he said, fuck that. If I can't have you, nobody can. Dude, he was down bad, dude.
Came in, asked to buy half a gallon of antifreeze, which Bernice Warden poured out for him and wrote out a receipt. He went back out to his truck, then came back inside and asked her to see a rifle that was in the window. When Bernice Warden turned her back to him, he shot her in the back of the head and then loaded her corpse in his truck and drove back to his farm.
This
nigga, how?
Studio.
How the fuck did he pull something off like that, dude? How did the nigga even get away with that shit? Low key. Nigga, he did it in the store? Did it say the time? I'm tripping. There's no way. He loaded the bitch up after shooting her in the back of the head. And no one heard anything. No one heard no shot. They didn't see the nigga pull off. They didn't see the nigga there.
Gein had murdered the 58-year-old woman in broad daylight.
It was deer season,
my
so
God.
deer season is like a ghost town around here. Everybody, in those days especially, everybody was out hunting. And she wasn't even missed for some hours. And then someone reported that she wasn't at the store. Well, that was her son, of course.
Later that day, Frank Warden returned from the woods and found the store empty. His mother wasn't there. He was very perplexed by that.
So they just looked the other way.
Saw a trail of blood across the floor of the hardware store, and not only realized, that
like, dog, he's a sloppy killer. Not saying that, dude, no wonder this nigga got caught, because he is starting off sloppy, dude. First of all, she's 50. She was like 53, dude. Yeah, she probably still got a little bit of movement to her. Nigga, you could have just knocked her out. You didn't have to shoot her in the back of the head, dog. Like, what do you? If everybody was gone, and I'm talking the whole town being gone, is crazy. That's off rip. That's crazy. But okay.
Some foul play had occurred, but immediately
so many ways you could have done this.
Gein, because Gein had been kind of bothering his mother for the past few weeks.
And there was one piece of evidence that confirmed Frank Warden's suspicions to the police.
When they went to search the place, they found the receipt for the antifreeze that was in Ed's name. And they just...
This nigga is selling. This nigga is the worst. This nigga is the worst criminal I have ever heard of. The nigga left the receipt. Left a trail of blood. This nigga is fucking up. He didn't do not one damn thing right, dude. This nigga is the worst. How is he getting away with killing motherfuckers? Only because he's in a small town. That has to be it.
Work backwards, saying that he was probably the last person to see her alive, but they didn't suspect that he was as deranged as he was.
50s was a different time.
One set of lawmen went out in search of Gein. They found him having dinner at a neighbor's house, and they arrested him. And then another set of lawmen went out to Gein's farmhouse, and that's where they made these discoveries that really sent shockwaves around the world.
Wait a second.
On a dark winter's night,
I think we skipped ahead in a sense. I think it's like talking about like that was his last kill. I think she was his last kill, Loki. That's what I'm starting to think.
officers from the Plainfield Police Department began to search the Gein farm for Bernice Warden.
It was a woman's corpse that was hanging by its heels and been completely gutted.
She'd been strung up, essentially, and she was slit from her sternum to her pelvis.
Nah.
So she'd essentially been butchered by Ed. It really was the most grotesque thing that these officers had ever come across.
And they realized they had found the body of Bernice Warden. And of course, both of them just stumbled out in horror and vomited, at the sight of this thing.
Yo, lock this man up. I wonder how he went out. Do you think he went out in prison or like jail or whatever? Or do you think they actually like killed him? Because if he walked away scotch, like no harm, it's crazy to think.
I couldn't believe it. I was sure they had the wrong person because it just didn't seem like anything that they were telling us was the Ed that we all knew.
The body of Bernice Warden in a shed at Ed Gein's farm, the police officers moved their search into the main house.
He boarded up some areas of the family's home to maintain the rooms as his mother had left them. And in other parts of the property, he just started hoarding things.
But there was more than just household waste.
Amid all that wreckage, they discovered these incomprehensible, unspeakably awful objects that had been fashioned out of human body parts. There were chairs that were upholstered in human flesh.
There was a lampshade made of human skin. They found the remains of 12 human heads.
Dude, this is what I'm talking about. So this is where I was guessing. So the Bernice chick, she was the last one to be killed by the dude. So that means that they just skipped over all the previous kills, but I think they're gonna go back into it. Dude. The fact that this nigga even got 12 heads is crazy. Having more than one is actually, even having one's crazy, but having more than one is even crazier than crazy. You know what I mean?
Gloves made out of the skin from a corpse's fingers.
There was a jar containing human noses. There was a box full of female genitalia, some of which had been...
Oh, no! This nigga was so down bad, he was collecting pussies. This man had a jar of pussies, dude. Dude. Crazy work. He went to town on those before he put them in that jar. Or he was saving them for later.
And painted and tied with ribbons. There was a belt fashioned out of female nipples. There was a shade pull made of human lips. They
found all types of things that belonged to people that were no longer people. And it was shocking. You think of this happening, now, it'd still be shocking. But back then, in a small, tiny rural community, it was...
This is something crazy to think about, too, dude. So when he was just out here killing people, he's like, fuck, what do I do with these bodies? Well, I could just bury these people, but where's the fun in that? Let me take up art. You know what I mean? Let's just build some shit. This nigga was thinking, I don't know, this man was sadistic if you think about it. Dude, he's like, fuck it, dude, I'm gonna make a chair. Because, he's a handyman, dog, so he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna make a lamp. Things that are easily fixable. I don't know, dude. Nipple belt's crazy work, though.
Gein's fascination with death and corpses had been growing ever since his mother had died 12 years previously.
Ed had always enjoyed reading. It was quite a solitary pursuit, so that's not...
Dude, I'm telling you, look, it's like, this nigga just read the Catcher in the Rye or some shit. And like, I guarantee it's gonna be some, or like Wizard of Oz or some shit. It's gonna be some Wizard of Oz type shit. I don't know. We'll find out.
Not particularly surprising, but after the death of his mother and his brother, he started to read an awful lot more, and his tastes in literature really did span quite a wide spectrum. He read pornographic magazines.
Called it. Called it. I said that earlier, didn't I? Dude. I don't know if I said that. I'm pretty sure I said that earlier, dog. He was getting into some reading, and then he started getting into some graphic things, do some 50 grades, 50 grades type shit.
He read medical textbooks, and he developed a particular interest in Ilse Koch, who worked at one of the Nazi concentration camps and collected patches of skin of the prisoners who were detained there.
As the search of the farmhouse progressed, officers found that the grotesque collection of body parts became even more disturbing.
Among the most hideous of all the items were human skin masks that were hanging from the wall of his bedroom.
Wait, did this nigga just say human skin masks? Yo, this man, look, let me say this. What he did was bad, dog. But listen, he was creative. You gotta give him that, dude. You don't you don't have to like the motherfucker. I mean, you shouldn't like the motherfucker, but you gotta admit he was crazy with the creations.
Human skin masks that were hanging from the wall of his bedroom, the faces of women that had been flayed from the skulls and that had been preserved. Some of them had lipstick applied to them. And
this nigga was beaten to him. He was beating to them. I guarantee it, dude. He was beating to him, dude. Or he would go in that jar of pussies, dude, and he'd just be beaten to the face of him. I guarantee it. Dude, I'm telling you, he's sick, he's sick, dude. In his mind, dude. That's the type of shit he was doing. I guarantee it, dude.
That had been hung on the walls as decorations. And then, most notoriously...
No. Swear to God, he literally had a... Dude, that's literally probably where, like... Dude, they said... Didn't they say something about the pussies? I don't know if they said that it was, like, wrapped up with rope or whatever. This man was, like, took fleshlight for real. Like, he was out here taking a whole vagina and wrapping it up and, fleshlight and shit.
There was a skin suit that Ed had crafted out of the upper torso of a woman and the leggings of a woman. And apparently, as he later confessed, he would put on this skin suit and put on one of the female skin masks and caper around in his yard, pretending to be his mother.
What? This man, dude, what is he doing? What is he doing? This is one of the craziest shit I've ever heard. This man's obsession with his mother is crazy. Pretend to be his mother. Dude, like this obsession, dude, is like more than dude, he had to be in love with his mother. I guarantee it. I guarantee, like legit in love with her. I think he couldn't wait till his dad died so he could be like, she's mine now. I'm next. Has to be.
2 years after the death of his mother in 1947, he starts grave robbing.
I was just thinking that, dude. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he even digged up his mother.
So he's going into a local burial ground, he's digging up bodies, and he's taking things from the bodies. Now, he's not taking jewellery or items of any value, he's actually taking body parts. It really is an absolute house of horrors. So what started off as an interest, which was confined to the pages of a book, has now become a reality behind the doors of this rather bizarre house.
Like, nigga, I can't believe you can even miss somebody that much. Like, I mean, no, believe me, I know your world can be crushed. But dog, to go in this spiraling just fall is insane.
the search wasn't over yet. Officers would soon discover, inside a paper bag in Gein's home, the severed head of a woman who'd been missing from Plainfield for over 2 years.
See, look, it's funny, dude. This nigga literally, like, he is, to me, I'm guessing, the nigga was a blank slate, dog. All he knew was his, dude, that's low key, and it's crazy because it's legit his mom's fault, if you think about it. Like, they lived somewhere, and then they end up moving to a rural area. So if he did make friends, then she was like, no, they're bad or whatever. And then he had nobody. So all he had was his mom. His mom became his friend and his only friend. But then it became more than friends on some, you know what I mean?
And a female tavern keeper named Mary Hogan, who ran this roadside tavern outside of Plainfield, who had disappeared very, very mysteriously.
In those days, we had 18-year-old bars where teenagers could go in and have beer.
This is also something else, too. How did this nigga, in a 12-year span, first of all, he was stealing bodies, no one's seen it. No one's seen him stealing bodies. Nigga was walking outside of his house in full body skin suits, nigga. No one's seen it. Not even like just randomly walking or like, nigga, what?
When she went missing, he'd said some rather bizarre things. He said to one of the townspeople, oh, she's not missing, she's up at the house. But because he was a bit of a misfit and because he was a bit weird, people didn't really take what he said very seriously.
Oh my God. This man was even snitching on himself, but no one took him serious. Dude, what's funny is, like, this, I'm trying to, like, imagine. I feel like this nigga, like, legit, like, there was something mentally wrong with him, right? And he wasn't smart. So, like, people knew that, and they're like, oh, he's crazy. He's just weird, and blah, blah, blah. He lies a lot. He says crazy shit. But he's dead ass. Like, dead ass. And they're like, nah. Dude, he's a good guy, though, so we'll just, you know what I mean? He was saying shit. He's probably like, oh, she was up there. Like, nigga, she's been missing for 3 years. That nigga's crazy, but they're like, okay.
Gein had murdered Mary Hogan on December the 8th, 1954, 3 years previous to killing Bernice Warden. Back at the local police station, it was time for Ed Gein to start talking.
Now we get into the motherfucking nitty gritty, dude. Let's see what this nigga had to say, dude. I guarantee he snitched on himself. He went out, they didn't lie about fucking nothing, dude.
Well, for the first day after his arrest, I think Ed felt like a bit of a fish out of water. He didn't quite know how to react. But he did start talking after about 24 hours. And the first thing he said was that he wanted an apple pie with a slice of cheese on it. And that really does show the emotional immaturity of this guy. And when you've got somebody whose development stops...
This nigga's taste is disgusting, by the way. This nigga's been eating scraps. He don't even know what real food is, dude.
He was subjected to a very lengthy interrogation. He freely confessed to the murders of Bernice Warden and Mary Hogan. When the police first broke into Gein's house and discovered this crazy mass of body parts, their first assumption was Gein was a serial killer.
Yes, this nigga
It was only
is.
during his interrogation that he revealed that they were taken from the corpses he had dug up from these local cemeteries. And people, in a way, had a harder time believing that than that he was a serial killer. That seemed like totally beyond the bounds of belief for a whole variety of reasons.
Human bodies are traditionally buried 6 feet underground. That's a lot of digging, that's a lot of work to get to.
Dude, that's something too, dude. You're telling me the local grave, it has to be somewhere, even if it's not like out, maybe it's even out a little bit farther behind a church or whatever, in a small town of like 800 or whatever the fuck. Dude, this nigga had to be digging 6 feet. Even at night, dude, that would take what? I mean, it would take some time, dude, to fucking pull out body parts.
I'm not sure he did recognize that what he was doing was wrong. You know, there are some necrophiles who think, well, I wasn't really hurting anybody. You know, they were dead anyway.
Gein Gein confessed to investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he'd regularly visited the local cemetery after dark.
He would often follow the local newspapers and read the obituaries, and when some middle-aged or elderly woman who bore some vague
Ain't no way, dude. This man was plotting, dude.
To his departed mother, died and was buried, he would apparently go out to the cemetery at night while the soil was still fresh and easily dug up, and exhume these coffins and remove the bodies, and sometimes take the entire corpse back to his farmhouse, sometimes just take parts of the corpse back to the farmhouse and leave the rest there.
Investigators decided to dig up some of the graves to see if Gein was telling the truth.
When they
Not only would he have to dig up the bodies, he would have to put the dirt back. So you're digging 6 feet, grabbing the body, throwing it off to the side, putting the dirt back. And some part makes me believe that this nigga did not put the dirt back, because if the nigga left the receipt there, which he probably didn't think nothing of it, but yeah, and that's exactly why the nigga got caught. But dude, I'm telling you.
Over them, they discovered that the coffins had been broken into, and the bodies were missing, or, there were just parts of the skeleton remaining there.
He admitted to grave robbing 9 corpses, but the maths didn't quite add up, because the police had found 12 human heads in Gein's property, and he'd only admitted to 11 offences against separate people. So the numbers never really added up properly. So there's always been questions over that.
There was no doubt that Gein specifically targeted females. All the graves he desecrated belonged to women.
I think he was both trying to rebuild his mother, but I also think that he was taking revenge on his mother. That kind of love and hate of mommy were manifested both by...
This nigga really said mommy. Build-A-Bear is crazy. No, dude, he was for real, dude. Like, this nigga was really trying to do some, like, transmutation circle, trying to bring his mom back to life by grabbing random body parts out of the fucking grave, dude. Had to be. That's the only way to do it.
By his attempting to bring her back from the dead, but also perpetrating
Full Metal Alchemist,
these atrocities.
It's been reported that Gein did in fact try to return Augusta to the family home after her funeral.
There's some indication that he initially tried to exhume his mother's corpse. Apparently Ed missed the presence of his mother so much. He wanted to bring her back and somehow, in his madness, reconstitute her in his household. He couldn't get to his mother's grave because the soil in that part of Wisconsin is very sandy, and many coffins are buried within concrete vaults to prevent the sand from collapsing on them. And that was apparently true of Augusta Gein.
In 1957, Ed Gein was charged with the murder of Bernice Warden. The media descended on the tiny town of Plainfield, Wisconsin.
What kind of a man?
This happened in Wisconsin.
Well, a man's a nice man, just like anybody else. The only difference I'd say in the man, he seems to be a little hot.
Yes, nigga.
On November the 21st, 1957, the 51-year-old pleaded not guilty by reason.
You can't make this shit up. This nigga just said not guilty. Nigga already admitted to it. Okay.
Of insanity at his arraignment at Waushara County Court, and it was declared that he was unfit to stand trial.
There are indications that Ed was clinically psychotic, that he had hallucinations, that he heard voices, or the trees would start talking to him. Most serial murderers are not psychotic, but Ed seemed to have the symptoms of some form of psychosis.
Gein was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Warpen, Wisconsin, which is now a maximum security prison. In March 1958, The car which Gein used to transport the bodies of his victims was bought at an auction for over $700 by a carnival operator who charged fascinated Americans 25 cents for a photograph at a macabre site.
This nigga ain't shit. This nigga ain't shit, dude. Look at this. Remember Ed Gein? See his grave robbing and murder, too. Oh my god. It's here. Ed Gein's car. Dude, this nigga was out here fucking... This nigga found a come up. This is some Ed and Eddie type shit. Like, for real, dude. This is some Ed and Eddie type shit. Nigga, a quarter you can sit in the car and feel like Ed Gein.
Show.
I think what we're seeing here is the rise of the serial killer consumer culture. People are fascinated in these kind of cases, and some criminologists refer to this as wound culture, that we're essentially drawn to the trauma and the suffering of other people, and we're drawn to the artifacts that exist around these cases.
Gein remained in the Central State Hospital for 11 years until doctors determined that he was finally fit to stand trial for the...
What? They had that nigga living there for 11... Dude, this nigga did not get the justice he deserved. Like, you know what I mean? This nigga was... Look, he was big chilling. They was feeding this nigga. This nigga was probably watching TV. This nigga was getting the help he wanted for 11 years straight. 11 years straight. And then they were like, this nigga's fit for trial.
He was tried and found guilty of the murder of Bernice Worden, but then he was judged insane and stuck back in the mental institution.
I think that was possibly somewhere where he may have thrived, because he had structure, he had a routine, he had people watching over him and looking after his needs.
Forensic psychologist Dr. Helen Morrison interviewed Gein during his time in hospital.
Nigga, that's what I'm talking about. I want to hear this shit.
I went over to see it and I saw Ed Gein. He was not at all coherent. He was such a little person that I found it hard to picture him as the person who'd committed all these homicides. He lived there very peacefully. He never caused any problems, never had any type of behavioral thing, no type of I guess you could say, consequence for bad behavior.
Yeah, because that nigga was surrounded by people. You know, if that nigga was alone, he'd be doing this shit. But, dude, he was not coherent. So, like, the nigga was just, dude, he was out of it. Like, this nigga just he probably didn't talk no more. He was like vegetable state type shit.
1984, Ed Gein died of lung cancer, age 77.
Oh. So, back to what I was saying. I feel like this nigga had the luckiest out ever for being a serial killer. Like, ever, dude. There's no way. This nigga lived to be 77 years old. It's a transcript.
You work all night at that time? I should think you have.
That's right.
What would you do with the sexual part?
That was in.
One was painted, they said.
Oh, that one, when they died, I just put the tape over it. Is there anything like,
Oh my god, this nigga was painting pussies.
How did you start?
Like I say, not before years.
So there's a bunch of photographers from the newspapers. Want to take a picture? You want to take a picture?
No, it's not yet. Till we get to straighten off.
Wait, does this nigga really think he didn't do nothing? He said, not until we get this straightened out, dude, because I'm innocent.
Would you enjoy it while you were doing it?
That's the worst part of it. I mean, they didn't then. I knew better, restless.
When you dig these graves up, you were kind of in a haze, too, is that it?
That's what I could do, just how you do it.
And then one time you said you were trying to realize what you were doing, and you covered her up without taking anything.
That's right.
What would you
do with the sexual parts then? They thinking about certain things.
Nigga says that depends, dog. Yo, he was fucking dead bodies, dude. I don't care what nobody says, dude. There's no way he wasn't.
What would you do with the head? That must have been taken from reading about in these magazines and everything. Taking the flesh off like a headhunter.
He said, nigga, I steal the heads because I was trying to get head. Fuck you mean? Dude, what? Oh my god, dude. Hey, that shit was mad interesting though. Yo, that shit was mad interesting.